John Toll obviously knows what he's doing behind the camera, and Mel was very clear. And I think given the hugeness of the film and the hugeness of the landscape, I think one complemented the other, and I think, you know, Mel is to be complimented really on the way he embraced the massive nature of that landscape.
The Wallace character standing, and what I call the skiing mountain shot, that always makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I'm always taken aback by how beautiful Sophie looks. You know, in some of those shots, just fabulous, particularly during the execution scene where there's just a tear coming down. It's wonderful.
With women, actresses, dude, you have to shoot them at more than 28 frames a second. It's just all there is to it. I mean, it just makes them more beautiful and graceful. I mean, not so that it's perceptible, like, wow, they're in slow motion, you know, it's not like a shampoo ad or something, but it's like just, you know, 30 frames, 32 frames a second instead of the usual 24. It just kind of gives it a flow.
I've been in the movie business for over 40 years and worked with lots and lots of directors, obviously. Mel stands out to me as a guy who went that extra yard to make everyone feel included in the process.
He would give anybody as many takes as they needed or wanted to get to where they wanted to go. You know, you don't be, nobody begets that. You'd have 3,000 people waiting and another 2,000 camera, everybody's waiting. Just go away, have some time, do whatever you need in order to get to where you needed to get.
Kid was great, and he put out, and I was like, wow, that kid's amazing, you know. Once he kind of relaxed and you let him know everything was okay, he was like fine. Took him a minute, but it would take anyone a minute, but he clicked in real fast and he was able to suspend, you know, where he was and then get into another reality, which is like amazing. Even that little girl, the 4-year-old, I mean, we had to trick her because she was 4 years old, but so cute. She took a liking to me, and so she'd look at me anywhere I was. So I got right near the lens, and I'd be, you know, saying, "Hey, sweetheart, look at me," and she'd be like, you know.
I beg you.
Now, you've achieved more than anyone has ever dreamed. But fighting these odds looks like rage, not courage.
Angus came out of Britain, but he was a method guy. And sometimes he would go off in a direction that I'd just be watching and thinking, what is he doing? And I asked Mel about it one day, and Mel said, well, you know, if an actor goes off in a direction 180 degrees different from what I think it should be, I let him do it, because maybe he knows more than I do. And then we look at it and see what it is.
I remember he said to me before a scene, he said, "You know the cheapest thing on this set?" I said, "No." He said, "Celluloid. Use as much as you like." Now, that's okay, that's a light-hearted sort of thing to say. But for an actor, that means an awful lot more. It means that the director trusts you to do your job to the best of your ability. And if you think you can do better, keep on going.
Some people took 25 takes, you know, to get whatever, until they were happy. Are you happy? Good. Then he'd turn the camera on himself and he'd do 2 takes. He'd look at John. "All right, John?" John would be like, "Great. Okay, on." So he would do the thing in 5 minutes, and somebody else would have just spent 3 hours.
I had issues with Mel, who didn't want to give himself enough time. He'd shoot 2 takes of himself, and he'd say, "Oh, I got it, that's it." And I'd say, "Mel, you're the star of the movie. You have to give yourself more. I need more. I need more choice if I want it."
When Robert the Brisk had sold him out, and he goes down, he's got an arrow in him, and he just goes, "I'm giving up." I saw him do that scene, and he did 3 takes. he wasn't doing that on purpose. There wasn't necessarily other people around to see it. But if you were watching, you could see him deliver the goods very quickly and very succinctly, with no messing around and no bullshit.
Actors who can sustain a long look are of enormous value to movies. As soon as there's a blink, even, all the tension dissipates. And these two actors were able to look at each other. When Mel blinks, it's because he's so sad of the betrayal. And Angus taking it all in visually, it becomes music. And the music therefore becomes much more important. The music is the dialogue in the sequence. So when James Horner writes a piece of music for that sequence, it's doing the work of the words. And the eyes are telling the visuals of the words. It's all visually done. For me, editing is music.
I know it seems like a waste of good whiskey. You indulge me.
Jimmy Cosmo is just he's kind of a legend, you know. And obviously he was playing my dad. He wasn't really that old, unless he was having very odd affairs when he was about 11, or even younger maybe. The scene where we fight and battle together, but the unthinkable happens. Those scenes are very, very difficult.
I'm dying.
It was a pretty important scene in the film. You know, it's this old man who is saying to his son and the others that he's happy to go, that he's done his duty unto death, and that he's passing it on to them, and how proud he is that they have.
I've lived long enough to live free. Proud to see you become the man you are.
I finished that scene, and Brendan was wonderfully complimentary. He was beautiful. I won't say what he said, but it was lovely. And then Mel said, "We need to do this again." I thought, geez, I got that right, Mel. So what was wrong? He said, "We've got to do it again." Okay, we're going to do it again. So I do and I die. I do the best I can. It's maybe not as good as the last one I did, but I do the best I can. And I die. And I can feel Brendan, he's holding me in his arms, and I can feel him shaking. And I think he's crying. Fantastic. He's shaking. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm trying to stay dead. And it's becoming difficult, because you try and get your breath shallow so it doesn't show. But eventually, you know.
And I said, "Oh, you know, Father." And I started doing, "No, don't die." I started beating on his chest and everyone, just seeing how long he could keep his eyes closed.
And eventually I got to open my eyes. And Brendan Gleeson has got a clown's red nose stuck on it. He's done the whole scene. And because I'm lying like this, I can't see this head with this red thing.
So the tradition with Mel in his previous few films that he'd bring out a red nose at some stage during the film. He had done it himself up on the top of a battlement somewhere. And he said, if there's any time you think it's appropriate to bring out a red nose.
This was Mel's thing, that for the gag reel, everyone had to wear this bloody red nose. So that was me got.
Mel Gibson, I don't know, I think it's because he's an actor himself. He understands that actors can get too heavy. Some of them aren't heavy enough, but some of them are too heavy and too sincere, and they actually lose the humanity of it.
He loved the sound of laughter on the set.
Oh, God.
And that's really important, because that says so much about how people are feeling.
That's his energy. You know, laughing is very electric in a way, and it keeps you awake, and it keeps you in a very good energy to, because it's nervous. And it's true that making a movie, you got to be into that state of energy. If you fall asleep, if you're not completely in it, you know, you lose something. he loved to play games with me and to, because my English was a little bit, clumsy, and that amused him a lot. So every time he could, trap me into some kind of words game or. And I was like desperate. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get out from this. And I tried to keep my sense of humor.
When we were staying in Glen Nevis, when we were doing the Scottish stuff, Malcolm Tierney, who played the sheriff, was staying at the same hotel as me. And they were all going off for the evening to have a meal somewhere, And I didn't want to go, so I was staying there. And I was talking with a guy that owned the hotel. And we're talking about English people, and Malcolm is very English and a lovely man, very, very English. And we got the key to his room, I'm afraid. And we went into the kitchen and we got this is after quite a lot of whiskey, because I used to drink in those days. And we got a kitchen glove, a rubber glove. And we filled it full of iced water with ice in it. And then we stretched it and tied a knot. So it was like a huge cow's udder, only it was cold and sort of slippy. And we went into his bedroom and tucked it in at the bottom of his bed and then remade the bed, see? And Malcolm came back that evening and went upstairs, and I went off to bed. So in the morning, we're going to work, and I was waiting in the car, and Malcolm got into the car, and he said, "Oh my God." I said, "What?" He said, "Last night." I said, "What happened, Malcolm?" He said, "Oh, God, James, it was awful." He said, "I think I know who did it. It's some bastard." Anyway, you have to cut that bit. But he mentioned another actor, so I kept my face straight, and I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well," he said, "last night I came back. I think I saw you." And I said, yeah. He said, "I went to bed." He said, and I was trying to read. He said, but I was very tired. He said, I couldn't. Anyway, he said, I switched off the bedside light. He said, and I stretched out in bed, and he said, this thing grabbed hold of my foot. He said, it was awful. He said, he got such a fright. He knocked over the bedside light, so he was in the dark. He said, I fought this thing all around the room, tried to kick it, kill it, and then he was, because he didn't stay there, he was totally disorientated. He couldn't find any lights, nothing. So he bounced around this room, attacking this strange Scottish creature that had been waiting for him in bed. And I don't think to this day, unless he sees this, he'll know that it was me that put it there. That was my little contribution to practical jokes on Braveheart.
75 Baker, take one. And action!
I just loved Ireland. In Ireland, it rains, and I was supposed to shoot when it was raining, because all my scenes were indoors, right? I'm the princess, I'm not outside, I'm inside. It didn't rain for 2 months, and I just stayed around waiting for the rain to come, because if it was beautiful, then they would take advantage of the blue sky to do all the battle scenes, and so then I just, hanged out for like weeks, which was my pleasure, by the way. In Ireland, there's a studio, so it was very easy to go back and forth depending on the weather. I was the weather cover. That was also another joke of Mel, making fun of that.
Peaceful settlement. Sounds like a lawyer.
We had insisted and, reassured Mel that there were no midges in Ireland, but of course there was thousands of them made the trip with us.
Right, roll.
Get away from me.
Take one, mark up. Action.
I would have loved that whole film to be shot in Scotland. I felt really sad that we couldn't provide what the Irish could provide, Filmmaking is about making money, and they were saving millions going over there. And I've got to say that The Irish Territorial Army were absolutely fantastic.
We had this guy, Kevin Delanoy, out of London, who was just brilliant. It was an assembly line every morning by 8 o'clock. Kevin had these guys out there on the field, full wardrobe, full makeup, muddied down, all weaponed, wigs, ready to go.
Then you go through the makeup you put on yourself.
If we'd shot the film in Scotland and didn't have the luxury of army extras, and we had to go around the Scottish pubs and pull out 1,200 guys and try and get them to stay for 6 weeks while we're shooting. You'd start off with 1,200 extras and you'd find that at the end of the day, get to week 6, you'd be lucky to have 300 left.
Mel could say, I want 1,000 of those guys to move 100 yards to the left and just turn and march. Could you imagine getting extras to do that? You know, you need cattle prods and things, you know, but these guys just march, boom.
You just see these guys coming over as the sun came up. You just see these like 2,000-3,000 guys come across the hill. And it was just an amazing sight.
One of my favorite memories was coming out one morning and seeing 1,500 of them doing Mexican wave, flashing away like to beat the band. So you
when all the Scots bared their backsides, I remember I was behind the camera and so was Mel, but everyone else was genuine. I managed to avoid that one.
The English come to barter with our nobles for their castles and their titles. But our nobles will not be at the front of the battle. No, they will not. But I will.
In the early days, I went to see Mel at Shepperton, and he had the idea of wanting some kind of war paint. The ancient Britons used to use a form of body painting, dye called woad, which comes from a flax flower. It's a particular type of blue, and we worked on various looks. He was very keen on St Andrew's Cross, and I remember I wasn't keen on St Andrew's Cross, and actually, fair play to Mel. I mean, absolutely all credit to him. You could actually turn around and say, well, I don't think that's a good idea. And truthfully, there aren't many people you can say that to. Not of his position, who was not only the producer, but director and the leading man.
Tell me I'm still scary. Thank you.
Looking at it now, all these years later, I like it. I mean, I really do like the design of it. I'm thrilled that football crowds paint their faces that way, and it's become an iconic image, and that's something really to be proud of. But it's not just me solely, it's also Mel. I mean, we really work together on that.
Cinema history. Rarely do you see this many people in the shot. So make it work well, and you'll be very proud of it, I promise you. Here we go.
I referred it back to Ben-Hur and like these things that I'd seen, or El Cid or something like that I'd seen as a kid, and it felt like this is the kind of movies I used to love as a kid. You know, just where you're just awestruck with the scale of it. And so there was that feeling that you weren't going to, this wasn't going to happen too much anymore. Now, I mean, Gladiator came along then and it became a bit of a fashion for a bit where people did find ways of doing it. But at the time it felt very special, and maybe in a kind of old-fashioned way, the kind of cinema that really people wanted, you know. It was don't worry lads, we're going to blow your mind away here. And of course you feel proud about being it. It feels slightly ridiculous to be part of it. Kind of saying, how come, what am I doing in there?